All right, I think I can probably get going. Welcome. My name is Mark Lyons. I am the training specialist for DraftSight. We appreciate you showing up and participating in this conference. This is our first one. We plan on doing a series of these. Hopefully in the future, maybe every other week. The next one is scheduled for June 15th. The format that we're going to use when it comes to this is this first one is going to be more of an introduction, maybe a beginner type of lesson. We're going to learn how to create templates using DraftSight. And the next one, which is going to be using attributes in your blocks, is more of an intermediate to advanced. And I'm going to flip-flop between the two, where I'll do it a beginner, maybe an intermediate to advanced, a beginner, intermediate, and as the training goes, you'll see that the level of complication will increase. So that's how we plan on starting it. Hopefully this is going to be a continuing effort. We appreciate everyone signing in. I have been a high school teacher. I taught at two different schools in Massachusetts, Aspen Valley High School and Bay Path Technical High School. I taught 15 years. My background is drafting. I have over 10 years mechanical design experience, working for companies like Digital Equipment Corporation and Bose, the music company. I'm the Skills USA Director for Technical and Architectural Drafting in Massachusetts. And you've probably seen my posts on both Facebook and the community, the swim site community for DraftSight. We have some general guidelines that I'd like to just go over with you so we can try to proceed through this uninterrupted. If you're dialing in, if you could mute your phone, and if you need to ask questions, we would like you to post them through Twitter. The Twitter handle is #DraftSight, or you can post them directly on the Facebook event page. I have someone here helping me receiving the questions, and what my plan is to answer most of the questions at the end of the seminar. I'd like if you could make suggestions for upcoming webinars. If you post them on the Facebook event page. I'm always looking for good ideas. If you have an idea of what you'd like to have me teach, I'd be happy to put together a lesson for that. So if the questions that come up, we prefer that they are based on the topic at hand rather than topics that have nothing to do with the training session that we have today. This will prevent us from getting off track. And if you have some questions that are unrelated, please go to the community and ask the questions there in the swim site community. If you put your phone on hold, we'll be hearing your music, so please don't put your phone on hold while we're on the broadcast. If you have problems logging in, send a tweet to the #DraftSight, and we'll try to get someone to work on the issue as soon as possible. So, template setup and creation. When we decided to put this series together, I thought I could ease into it with a topic that a lot of people either don't understand or aren't familiar with. I've done some training throughout the country and even in Europe, and I find that most times when I go into someone's business, they don't take the time to set up a template file prior to creating their work. And I think it's important. The template file is just a seed file that contains user preferences. These user preferences can be line types, layers, dimension styles, units of measure, blocks, even drawing formats. I find that there's two ways to go about this. I don't know if we have anybody that's logged in here from Europe, but I'm going to treat this course or this lesson as I would teaching here in the US. So I'm going to be using ANSI standard, and the drawing formats that I'll be talking about are going to be the US ANSI drawing formats instead of the international standards.
when you create a seed file, you can create seed files in two different ways. You could create one where you would use it for every drawing that you create, or you could create a seed file for each different size drawing format. So I'm going to kind of explain how to do that as we go, but I think there's two methods that you could use. One would be just a single seed file, or the other would be a seed file for each particular drawing format.
No, so why would you want one? You want to have consistency in your files, consistency in your work, standardization throughout your company and your drawings, and ease of productivity. You don't want to be creating a new variables every time you open a file. You want to be able to just open that file, go right to work, have all your layers set, have all your formats set, and get going, rather than every time you open a file have to do it over and over again. Okay, so how do we get started? The first thing you'd need to do is decide on what standards that you use most often. We're going to create a template today that has layers, line types, dimension styles, and drawing formats. I'm going to have us create a bunch of layers, and then we'll load some line styles into those layers. We'll talk about some dimension options and dimension style options. So the first thing we need to do is get into DraftSight. When you open DraftSight, you automatically get a default drawing, and that's your standard template. If you look into your standard template, you'll see I'm going to throw a dimension on here. And as I dimension this, you'll see that the dimension comes out with 4 places after the decimal point. Most files in the US, we don't need 4 places after the decimal place, so we want to probably update that and change it. So we'll do that in a bit.
There's two sets of settings. There's two types of settings. I call the system settings and then the drawing settings. The system settings are the ones where whenever you open a session of DraftSight, those settings remain. As an example, my cursor.
Right now my cursor is just this pointer with a little pick box on it. I can change that by going to my options menu, and if I look in the options menu, these first two options, the system options and user preferences, those are ones that will stay with the system itself. Drawing settings and drafting styles, those ones will save with the file. So we'll be creating those in a template file. So if I want to change something as far as my options, if I change the size of my gravity box here, no matter when I open a DraftSight session, that gravity box will stay the same. If I wanted to change the display of my background, all my colors, I want to change the display of my model background and change it to black. Every time I open DraftSight, I'll have a black background.
So we're going to focus on the drawing settings and the options that we're going to have for drawing settings. Some of you are familiar with other 2D CAD products, and the way to go about this is very, very similar. The first thing that I will work on is creating a series of standard layers.
As you can see, when I open up my first session, I have some default layers that are applied, but nothing else. When I want to manage my work, I want to put certain data on certain layers. And if I can, I want to work it out so that I can change the colors of those layers and the line styles of those layers. So the first thing we'll do is create a series of layers. Every time I create a new layer within DraftSight and I click on the new, what will happen is that these settings that are right here, the show, hide, freeze, lock, color, the line style, and line weight, those will all be taken from whatever the active layer is. So if this is the active layer, you see my active layer is white. This layer will be white. So every layer I create now is going to take the same properties as the active layer. The first layer I'm going to create, I'm going to call it object, and that's where we're going to put our object lines when we create a drawing. So I just need to go in there and that's just create the name object. That's all I'm going to do for now, because I know I'm going to create a few more layers. So I'm just going to go new and create another new one. The next new one I'm going to create is going to be hidden. And this is going to be for hidden lines. I'm going to have one for my center lines. I'll create one for my phantom lines if I happen to need phantom lines, and my dimensions. Okay, so that's how I would start. I'm going to erase this geometry here because we don't want to have any geometry on our seed file. Once I've done that, what I need to do is I need to load in some line types. If you can see right here, my line types that are loaded into the file right now as default is just one. The one line type is continuous. So if I was to draw a line on this file, it would just be a solid straight line, and I can't change it to anything else at this point. It's because it's the only type I have is solid. So to change it and to add more, I'm just going to go here, click on this down arrow, click on Other, or I could actually go into my Layer Manager, and where it says Line Styles, I could click on one of these down arrows and click Other. All I'm going to be doing right now is actually loading in my line styles. That's it. I'm not going to be assigning them to a layer. I just need to go into the Line Style Load menu and pick the ones that I'd like. So the ones I think I need are going to be center, hidden. If I hold the control key down, I can select multiple line styles, and then I would like phantom. Okay. Okay. So now you see I have other available line styles. We don't want to load all the line styles into a file because it actually takes up more space on the drawing. So we only want to load in the ones that we think we're going to need. If you have to go back into the future and load more, just go into Other, click on the Load, and these are the ones that are available for you. Once I've done that, I'm going to go back into my Layers Manager, and I'm actually going to assign a line style to the layer. Object line, of course, is going to be a continuous line style, but that hidden line layer is going to be a hidden line. So I just click on the down arrow in the center line layer. I'm going to make it a center. Phantom layer, I'm going to click on phantom. And now I've set my line styles for my layers. It's really important that you map your line styles and your layers together to make your drawing a little bit more neat or clean. When you create your geometry, what you're going to want to do is make sure that your line style is set by layer, and then if I just change a layer, my line style will change. So now if I draw a line on that layer, it'll become dotted or hidden. Now I can actually go in and make my colors, my layers, different colors. So let's say I want to make my hidden lines green. My center lines, I can make them red. Phantom lines, I make them magenta. And my dimensions, we'll make my dimensions cyan. And I'm going to click OK. So at this point, all I'm doing is setting up my drawing for future use. I haven't done anything. I'm not going to create any geometry. I'm just setting up for future use. We have created our line styles and our layers.
Our line types for the layers. And now, here's where those two different methods will come into play. I'm going to actually load in some preset drawing formats that I've created. I'm going to bring them in.
And I'll store them as blocks. Right now, if I click on Insert Block, I have no blocks assigned to this file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create some blocks, bring some blocks in, save them in the file so that anytime I open up a new file and I need to insert a drawing border, I can just go into my blocks and insert it. So to do that, I do what I just did. I'll go to Insert Block. And since I don't have any, what I'm going to do is click on this Browse button. And I'm going to find the blocks that I have stored in my computer. And all I'm going to do is bring it in. What I'm doing is I'm bringing in a drawing as a block. So I click OK. I just inserted a drawing into my file, and I inserted it as a block. Once I've inserted it, I'm just going to delete it. But now if I went into insert block, you'd see I have one. I have a block that's called A size sheet 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to insert the next one. And once I insert them, I just delete them, because I don't need them right now. So any drawing that you create, you can insert them into your file as a block. You can see that this is just one entity. It's a block. If these drawing borders, if these blocks had blocks associated with them, they would come into the drawing as well. So they would be stored in this list of blocks that are available. This part of the webinar you probably can't do, but if you have drawings at your office, you can just insert those drawings, remove the geometry and the data that's in them, and then keep the border, and you can save it as a block inside your file. So I'm going to put in all these available drawing borders so that when I go to use my template file, they'll be there for me. I think I get the point across here, so I'm going to stop at this point. We don't need to go through all of them. So now I have a series of blocks stored within my file. If you happen to be an architect, you might want to create a file where you have all your symbols and load them in so they're always available to you. If you do plumbing, you can do the plumbing symbols, or welding, you can do welding symbols. Whatever type of drawing that you're creating, you can bring those blocks into your seed file so that they're always available to you.
If you have any questions, please send the questions to Twitter, or you can post it on the Facebook page. We're monitoring those both as we go, so we can work with you so you can understand what we're trying to teach you here. Okay, so now it comes to dimensions. I think on my slide here, I
put a little piece together to show you some of the dimension options that we're going to talk about today. When I throw a dimension onto my drawing, the dimension number itself has what's called a precision. The precision is the number of places after decimal place. Most times we don't need to have 4 places after decimal place, so we're going to change that with our dimension style. The arrow style can change. I know that architects use a little tick, whereas mechanical, we use arrows. This line here that goes from the number to this line, which is called a dimension line, you can set preferences to turn that off, turn it on. The same with the extension line. You can set preferences to turn that off or turn that on. When we create a circular dimension, whether it's a diameter or a radius, there's a center tick. You can either have that as a center mark or a center tick. We can show you how to do that. Also, we can create dimension styles that have tolerances already set, and I'll show you how to do that. Leading zeros on my dimensions, we can show you how to get rid of those if you need to get rid of those. So that's how I'm going to go right now, is create some new dimension styles so that these styles will save with your seed file. I'm going to move myself back to the object layer because I like to keep the object layer as the active layer. So if I go into Format and I click on Dimension Styles, what you'll see is I have one style. It's called Standard. That's the style that comes with the system. Over here there's a little preview button, a little preview window. You can see what it would look like if you were to change it. So what we want to do is, I don't ever change the standard one. What I do is I create a new one. So I go over here, I click on New, and then it just says that this new style that you're going to create is going to be based on the standard style that's already been created. So if I have another one already created, I could have it based on that one, but since I only have standard, I'm going to based on the standard. So I have to give it a name, and we'll call it two place, because I'm going to use 2 place decimals for this one. So I give it the name, I click OK. So here's where my options are, and the first thing I'm going to do is go to my linear dimension options, and I look down here and I see precision, and right now it's set to 4 places. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to 2 places. Okay. I also like to remove the leading zeros on my dimension. So if it's 0.75 dimension, it would be 0.75, not 0.75. Okay. Just for the purpose of this session, what I'm going to do is create a tolerance, and the first tolerance will be a symmetrical tolerance, and the symmetrical tolerance precision will make it 2 places, just as our dimension is 2 places. And then the value, what I'll do is I'm going to put in 0.02. So now whenever I put a dimension on my drawing, it will be 2 places. Oops, I'm sorry, I need to activate that format, dimension style. I never activated the style I just created. So 2 place, activate, okay. Dimension, place my dimension, and you'll see that it's a 2 place dimension with a tolerance of plus or minus 0.02. So anytime I create a dimension in my file using that dimension style, this is how it's going to appear. Okay, I'm going to create another one, and I'll create one with 3 places. Dimension style. Create a new, but now I'm going to base it again on the standard, and I'll call it 3 places. And I can go to my linear dimension, 3 places, hide my leading zeros, click OK. Actually, let me see, format, dimension style. If I need to make a change, right now I'm in the 2 places. I'm going to go into my radial, my center mark display, and we'll create it as a center line. And you see the difference in the preview. The center mark is just a tick. The center line is the tick with the line on it. I'm going to apply that. Now I'm going to go to my 3 places, and I'm going to do the same thing. Apply that. And I can activate this. Okay. And we'll see what happens if I put a circle in here. And with that circle, create a diameter dimension. And now you see when I did that, the center mark display showed with the diameter dimension. Okay. Let's get rid of this. I've created 2 dimension styles. A 2 place, a 3 place. We'll keep this one active. If I wanted to change my arrows in my 2 place dimensions, I'm going to say my arrows are going to be architectural ticks. If you look right now, it's start arrow and end arrow. If I change the first one, it will automatically change the second one, but I could change the next one if I wanted to. So my architectural tick style, if I wanted to make a floor plan drawing, I would create a template file for that, and then my dimensions would come in with a architectural tick to them. We can also set our boundaries. I'm going to change my drawing boundary here. Most drawings that I create with a C-size border. So I'm going to default my boundary to that size, and the size of a C-size would be 22 by 17. And then I would do a zoom bound. Even though you don't see anything happen, it actually just increased the size of the workspace to the size of the boundary. And I can always tell if that's the case by putting my grid on. You can see the grid only stays within the size of the boundary. And I can see that the whole boundary displays within my workspace. Let me turn my grid off. Well, once I've done all this, what I need to do is save it. So when I go to File, I click Save As. Right here, it's asking me to save as a drawing. What I want to do is change it to template. So I click on Save As, Drawing Template, Demo. Let's call it a template file. And now I have a file called Demo Template. It's located in It's actually located in the folder that I'm working on right now. I'm going to start a new file, and I'm going to move to that folder. Computer. And you'll see the template file. So I click on OK, Open. Now that I've done that, if you look, I have all of my layers. I have, I can insert a block, and I have my blocks. If I wanted to create a drawing on this sheet with, say, a C-size border, I can go here, insert a block, scroll down, C-size sheet 1, click OK. It's going to load it right into the absolute zero, zoom bound, and there it is. I have my border in here that I've just inserted that was saved with this file. What I would recommend that you do if you create a drawing and you don't need the other blocks, I would clean my drawing. And I can clean my drawing by just going to File, Clean. And what happens is it actually comes up here and it says you have all these unreferenced blocks, unreferenced dimension styles. If you don't need them, you can delete them. So you could go in and delete individual blocks if you didn't need them, or you could delete the whole list of the ones that you're not using. This keeps your file size smaller. Now I could start creating my work. On the object layer, if I wanted to create a rectangle, I have a rectangle there. Maybe I have a hole in it. Maybe I need to put some hidden lines through there. Now I just change the layer, hidden, create my lines. You see that the line goes onto the appropriate layer with the appropriate color. I can put dimensions on there by just simply going here, changing to my dimension layer, adding a dimension. You'll see that the dimension goes on. Not only does it go on, it put the tick in there because we put it in our preferences. You could save your file and you can be off and running. So I'm open for questions. If you'd like to post some questions on the Facebook page, feel free. If you want to post them on Twitter, please do, using the hashtag DraftSight. We have some time here for this. This session is being recorded. The screen PowerPoint and the recording will be available shortly, probably in the community. I'm not sure about YouTube. One other thing that I wanted to mention, once you've created your template file, if you want that file to be open every time you start a DraftSight session, you can go ahead and put it in your Smart New template
as your Smart New template. If I go into Options,
in my System Options, Save As, Template File for Smart New, I'd go in here and I would change it to the one I just created. Then every time I open a DraftSight session, it would use that file as my default. Or if I was already in DraftSight and I typed Smart New at the command line, it opens a new file using that template as my file. We did have a question. The question was how to bring the template file into the paper space. I call them sheet space rather than paper space. So what I'll do is I'm going to put it on the sheet 2 because I did something to sheet 1. When I'm using DraftSight, my work is done typically in the model window. And what I like to do is put my drawing border itself in the sheet window. This way it doesn't go onto the model, but when I go to print, I print from the sheet and I can get the drawing border to print with it. I'm going to use sheet 2 because I'd like to show you something. Right now, if you look, when I click on the sheet, there's a viewport. I should put some geometry in my model here so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm just going to put some rectangles in here, just so that when I go to my sheet tab, you see that there's some geometry inside that model or that viewport. This is called a viewport. And all a viewport is in DraftSight is a window into the model. I'm going to remove that for now. In my seed file, in my template file, I inserted formats. So they all come into this drawing. All these formats are attached to it. So I'm going to insert a C-size border. So I say Insert Block. I click on the one I want, C-size, sheet 1. And in my settings, I've already got it specified to be located at 0, 0. I don't have to change that. I could change it. I could have it put anywhere I want, a screen position, but I really don't want to do that. I just want to put it right at the 0, 0 of the sheet. So I click OK. That inserts that border into my file. But as you can see, I don't see any geometry. Well, that's because I don't have a viewport. I need to put one in. So if I go to View Tiles, and say Single Tile, it's just going to ask me for a rectangle. So I can say, here's a corner and here's a corner. And there's my viewport. I just put it in. When the viewport's in the file, right now, if you can see this line, it's not dark. If I double click in here, it makes that line dark. And when that line is dark, it means I'm actually in the model itself. I'm doing whatever I'd be doing in the model. I'm zooming in right now into the model and out. If I have a viewport in here and I want to make it so it's the scale of 1 to 1, I just type in the Z for zoom, and then I just need to type in the scale factor with an XP at the end. So I say 1 XP, and that zoomed that file in. So this geometry is actually 1 to 1 on that sheet. What I typically do is take this viewport geometry, because this is actually printable. I take this viewport geometry, I click on it, I come up here and I move it to a layer that I know I'm not going to want to print. In this case, I'm going to put it on layer 0. I can still see it, so what I would do is I'd go into my layer 0 and I would just hide layer 0. So I come over to layer 0 and then I just click the Show Hide button and click OK. And now that viewport isn't visible in my drawing. If I wanted to add dimensions, at this point, what I would do is I'd go into my model, I'd go to my dimension, click in a horizontal dimension, click, click, place a dimension, and you'll see that when I do that, it actually shows up in my view on my sheet tab. And then I can just print from here. I hope that answered the question that was out there. I appreciate it. I will say that the next webinar that we have, I think it's June 15th, what I'm going to do is take these template files and actually create attributes for them so that when you insert them, it'll actually ask you for some information to fill in a title block, whether it's the name, the date, drawn by, the drawing number. So you can see how to take that that drawing border one step further, that block, so that it will automatically fill in the fields that you need to fill in. I'm sorry about that. My toolbars might be a little different. What I have here is my dimension toolbar. If you want to add toolbars, the way to add toolbars in DraftSight is to just right mouse click on top of any active docked toolbar, and it gives you this context menu. The context menu, you can come down to where it says toolbars and click. Here I added my dimension toolbar. So click on dimension and click OK, and it added this toolbar here. All the other ones should be pretty standard. I don't think I changed anything else. The modify toolbars over here, the draw toolbars over here. Since I have a little bit of time, I would like to show you a neat feature that we have in DraftSight that I really like, and it's the tool matrix. If you click on tool matrix, I know this is a little off topic, but I really like this. I can take my toolbars. It opens up a palette down here where my properties and my home tab is. So I come in here and it's blank. What I need to do is just drag my toolbar into the tool matrix, and now I have all my toolbars located in a handy one spot, so that if I want to maximize my screen, it makes it a little bit more useful. Or I could just put them back out here. When you drag a toolbar, when you see it move with the blue bar and you let go, it will dock. I'm going to get rid of the tool matrix. And there you go. That's just a little tip.
So I think we're going to wrap up this session. If there's any questions that you can think of in the future, you can go to the Facebook page and put your feedback on there. If you would like to suggest a webinar in the future, please do. I'm open to any suggestions. I'm always looking for new ways of teaching, and someone who's been using the product for a long time, I kind of lose touch of the basics, and it's good to know sometimes when people need things that I assume that is already known. So if you have some kind of lesson that you'd like, just feel free to contact me through Facebook, and I'd be happy to put something together for you in the future. So I look forward to the June 15th webinar on making blocks containing attributes. It's going to be at 9:30 Eastern Time, just as this one is. For the future webinars, we plan on modifying the times so that it's appropriate for different people in different time zones. But we want to get our feet off the ground and running with the Eastern Time Zone with the first two, but we're going to modify the times as the series goes on. I appreciate your participating. I hope this was helpful, and please provide feedback for me if you can. I'd be more than happy to find out what you have to say about this session. So thank you very much, and hope to see you in a couple weeks.